State entity takes over operations of Porgera mine. Prime Minister quizzed on the country's economy. And calls to amend censorship laws to deal with illicit imports.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Wednesday's news. The world has revolutionized. Illicit materials entering the country are no longer being transported manually, most done electronically, making the work of the PNG Censorship Office a little hard. And the Chief Censor, Jim Abani, says laws need to be reviewed and new work procedures need to be in place to tackle this.
Acting Chief Censor Jim Abani revealed this when asked how his office is dealing with illicit materials that are being circulated electronically.
At that time, the Censorship Act was developed. There was no mobile phones, there is no internet. So we have seen the challenges there. So now we have gone into a change on the laws, and the bill is still under review. And one of those provisions that we have included are online services. That's a new space that we want to see that it has to be included. So that's where we will try to have that law will allow us to have at least some control measures has to be put on. But
he said this today when PNG Censorship Office and PNG Customs signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation, collaboration and information sharing to continue the partnership they have in cracking down illicit materials entering the country. Customs Commissioner Ray Paul admitted that their work has been made harder with the increase in the use of internet and smart devices as opposed to the traditional way of doing things.
It's not only cross-border. Cross-border, yes, there's a big challenge of people bringing this material across. But the biggest challenge we have today is the electronics that make it really worse for us. You get to share it by email. You get to share it by WhatsApp. I also understand that there's a lot of a number of Facebook groups that deals with it, even WhatsApp groups.
But he says it all boils down to parents who should start teaching children when they're still small.
Every parent have a role to play. If you're a father or a mother that don't take interest in what your child is watching, it's a problem. Why I say this? Because I see some parents, they are addicted to watching all these movies that are not right. And then it rubs onto the children. And if you're a parent that you don't get to manage this part very well.
Customs and the PNG Censorship Office have been working in collaboration over the years. Many illicit goods found during customs checks are being handed over to the Censorship Office, who then destroy them. Unfortunately, Acting Chief Censor Jim Abani says they can only destroy those items and can't go far when it comes to prosecution of people involved in bringing in those items, although they have had some success on a number of occasions with the help of police to prosecute some cases.
The Censorship Office, the law that currently we are using does not have the powers in terms of prosecution. So everything that we see that it's prohibited or objectionable for publication, then we seek police for prosecution because they have the more powers for prosecution. So right now we are reviewing the act. Maybe that will help us in terms of prosecution. But
meantime, the MOU signed will pave way for increased work between these government offices who have more than 30 years of history working together. Ruth Rungula, National EMTV News.
Today's session in Parliament started late with a further 20-minute extension of question time. Queries and clarifications relating to the mining, petroleum and energy sector were high on the agenda. It started with Member for Yanguru South Seah, Richard Maru, questioning the Prime Minister on the state of the economy, additionally querying the government's action that has resulted in the current state of affairs.
The member for Yanguru Saucia's series of questions regarding the government's action on Porgera received a backlash of point of orders from the government ministers, Kirgakua and Rainbow Paita.
You have no idea, my friend. You know what I'm like, any talk stuff. You German man, yeah.
Order.
German man.
Order.
We're going to lose a further 1 billion in revenue this year. If it goes into next year, 3,500 jobs have been lost. 1,500 contractors have lost their businesses.
The members' other questions relating to a handful of agricultural matters involving chicken and dairy imports. The Prime Minister pertained to the Take Back PNG slogan, which he states the government is looking to get more solid investors into the country for this sort of agricultural venture.
No government is stupid to ignore the economic sensitivities of our country. Let me assure our country, we are working within consciousness of the prevalent economic conditions we are facing, including import substitution, a very important and fundamental issue raised by the member for Yanguru. I'll take a special interest in what is happening in the chicken importation that he's made request. We'll take a special interest in also looking at the dairy industry that Amy talked along.
The Prime Minister's response to Porgera and highlighting legacy issues dating back to actions taken by the previous government, and another point of order from not only the member for Yanguru Saucia but also the former Prime Minister and member for Yalebu Pangia, Peter O'Neill.
27 billion total debt for the last 45 years. Where did it come up? This is official report. I mean, who are you, Treasurer? This is official report. You just don't want to, you just want to get figures from the air, just like your Prime Minister. Both of you are misleading the country, misleading Parliament. State the facts. This is an official report from the Bank of Papua New Guinea. Just don't be an idiot.
To which the Prime Minister added that the government is accessing all legislative regimes under the law and constitution for such actions to be taken by the government.
Our government clearly has a policy view. Government money, you mean say give him go last small business, maybe like less now. Maybe like putting money in the bank. Instead of giving all one talk business or crony business or kind of say no got. You want the private sector, you got interest law, work law dairy or work long chicken or you work law one of you carry money you come, maybe will give you incentive law policy does.
Anet Kora, National EMTV News.
Issues relating to Wafi Golpu mine waste also took center stage during question time. Governor for Morobe Ginson Saunu queried the final permitting process into the proposed waste dumping into the Huon Gulf and the status of the environmental impact report. Additionally stating the Morobe province does not want to be caught up with environmental damages similar to that of Basamuk in Medang. The Environment and Conservation Minister's response took longer than expected, resulting in points of order on the floor.
Why is the deep sea tailing disposal the only option? B, are you aware that the landowners of Babuaf have agreed in principle to make available as much as 500 hectares of land for the construction of tailing dam? 2, are you and SEPA relying solely on the environmental impact statement from the developer, or have you engaged independent scientific study to test the data and assumptions made and supplied by the developer as if it was gospel truth?
And it is only fair that I'd like to basically assure the Honorable Governor and the people of Morobe that as a responsible government, we, SEPA, will now have a monitoring station together with a developer based in between Bukawa and Wagan, whereby we will monitor on a regular basis. And it's going to start from this mine, this project, and we'll take it up into Ramonicol, across to Leir, and any other project where they practice deep sea tailings placement. Now, deep sea tailings placement is not as the submarine tailings disposal. Deep sea tailings placement is where they made a decision where they know where they want to place the tailings and the reason why they want to place the tailings there. In the case of
DSTP for Wapi Golpu is going to be below the photic zone or the euphotic zone.
You're watching National EMTV News. It's being hailed as a historic day. The state's mining company, Kumul Minerals Holdings Limited, being granted a special mining lease for Porgera. That story and more after the break. Welcome back. Investment Promotion Authority has partnered with various stakeholders to provide an easier way of doing business in the country. Through this partnership, the Asian Development Bank will be supporting IPA to develop new online business registry, which will make it easier for business to start and formalize. This is to ensure the country's business laws are modern and inclusive and in line with global standards.
An MOU was signed with IPA Treasury Department and the Asian Development Bank's Private Sector Development Initiative with support from Australian PNG Partnership. This MOU now paves way for an online business registry to be developed. This will ensure the country's business laws are modern, inclusive and sufficient to support the country's recovery from the impacts of COVID-19. This will also encourage more foreign investment in the country.
So this work we think is particularly important at this time, as all economies around the world are struggling with the economic impact of coronavirus. And we've been doing a lot of work with the PNG government to help navigate this difficult time, and we see this as an important element of that support.
This MOU is a renewal of an initial MOU signed in 2017, which now extends the partnership for another 5 years. According to IPA Managing Director Clarence Hood, much has been achieved over the years. This includes the transition of its existing online business registry to a stable online environment and the implementation of the Personal Property Securities Register, which makes it easier for businesses to access finance.
I'm happy to announce that in that MOU we reached about 60% of what we intended to achieve, and some of that work is continuing onto this new MOU. The MOU, the milestones that are highlighted to be achieved in the MOU comes in two forms. One is the technical operational, and the other one is policy related.
The Asian Development Bank, through the PSDI program, has been working together with IPA to enhance business environment and fostering growth and development of the country's economy. They pledge to continue working with IPA to ensure more businesses operate and invest in the country.
Things that IPA is doing, will be doing with IPA, they are actually major enablers of the private sector. And if we allow the private sector to grow because of these things, then at the end of the day it provides jobs, it creates opportunities for people, and there's a return back to government on these investments.
The Treasury Department has also been a key partner in this drive to make business easier in the country. In recognizing IPA's contribution to the business environment, the department also pledged their support for IPA in this partnership.
And partnering, giving the support through partnerships such as PSDI to assist IPA reform itself to be able to be better serve the business community as well as the government as a whole.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
With the increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in PNG, many businesses have either scaled down operations or have opted to work from home in a bid to minimize the risk of contracting and transmitting the virus. Working from home requires the use of internet and GetSafe Online. An NGO based in the UK is helping businesses in the Pacific region against online scams. GetSafe Online PNG is a website dedicated to help raise awareness in PNG's business community of risks and safety measures to protect people and businesses from online security risks.
Get Save Online is a UK-based NGO and has been providing free accessible public education and awareness services about online risk for over 14 years. With its mission to keep individuals, businesses and the general public safe in the digital world, it recently launched its online and security campaign in the Pacific. The Get Save Online Pacific, which PNG is a part of, looks at helping SMEs operate safely.
So we're working with the 9 other Pacific Island countries, including Papua New Guinea, to try and get information to people who require it for online safety and security. This project is aimed specifically at small and medium-sized businesses, what we call SMEs.
Pacifica Communications is working with Get Save Online UK to bring these to the 9 Pacific Island countries. Owner of Pacifica Communications, Dale Hammondsen, says with the increased use of internet, Pacific people have been exposed to online risks, and Get Save Online Pacific provides them with tips on how to be safe online.
It's a not-for-profit organization that's basically just trying to help companies in the Pacific in terms of their safety and security online. That means online payments, online emails, keeping their devices safe. What they've been seeing a lot is that companies have been facing challenges, have been facing risks, not knowing how to protect themselves online. So this project really gives some very helpful and simple tips: how to stay safe online, how to set passwords, how to send money and receive money online safely. So these are the kind of things that we're dealing with.
Mr. Hammondsen says results so far are looking good, with many people visiting the Get Save Online websites and Facebook pages with a lot of engagements. The Get Save Online project in the Pacific is a 6-month project, and Mr. Hammondsen hopes it can continue into the future. Ruth Rongola, National EMTV News.
And to another story from Parliament, matters relating to the proposed extension of Papua LNG and the hydropower agreement pertaining solely to traditionally owned borders specifically for the Eastern Highlands province was queried by the provincial governor Peter Numu today. The Eastern Highlands governor raised this, seeking clarification on customary land boundaries, saying parts of Eastern Highlands are part of the impact project areas. He asked if the minister was aware also of the hydropower agreement signed recently.
Seeking clarification in Parliament today, Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu, after making reference to oil search seismic activity report that indicated impact areas crossing provincial borders, Eastern Highlands was found to be included in the project impact areas, except that the provincial government was not consulted on this, raising the question to confirm whether administrative land boundaries take precedence over customary land boundaries. Additionally, questioning the hydropower agreement that was recently signed and how knowledgeable the minister was on the proposed agreement.
Now, seismic activities in been come up. No got one line lo Gulf come kiss him compensation. Eastern Islands, all people blow me kiss him compensation because of line blow this area. And time all search conduct. The time you go through law agreement, me look him also. Eastern Islands was not consulted. Everything was rushed through because the land there is traditionally owned by people of Eastern Islands.
To which the Minister for Petroleum and Energy, Karangakua, responded to the hydropower agreement, stating that his ministry only deals with the policy aspect. Further expounding on the land border issues, that a land determination will have to be finalized by the developer Total before ministerial determination is done, which he says all governors of impact areas will be consulted on in due time. Annette Kora, National EMTV News.
Kumul Mineral Holdings Limited has been granted the special mining lease for Porgera mine. After weeks of bickering between the state and Barrick, the former operators of the Porgera mine, the government wasted no time handing over the special mining lease to a state entity after yesterday's court ruling against Barrick New Guinea Limited. Mining Minister Johnson Tuke said all laws were followed, and based on the recommendation by the Mining Advisory Committee, the SML was granted.
What makes it such a complex situation is that on the one hand, the government has announced that this is a historic moment whereby a state-owned entity in KMHL has taken over the SML for Porgera, and on the other hand, the previous owners, Barrick New Guinea Limited, will be challenging the court's ruling dismissing their case on the special mining lease. And it's the landowners caught up in the middle. Earlier today, as part of that historic moment captured at the State Conference Room in Parliament, it was a celebratory mood for the government. Mining Minister Johnson Tuke stating due process was followed under the law and there was no political influence when the SML was recommended to the National Executive Council by the Mining Advisory Committee.
MAC is one of the independent process within MRA. They conduct due diligence on all our mining activity within the country.
Prime Minister James Marape thanking those involved, calling it a historic day for the country, and citing that both KMHL and Barrick had applied for the SML, but due to Barrick's handling of the previous special mining lease, Kumul Minerals was granted the lease.
As government, national government, we will involve every landowner in the process. We don't come with any strings attached. Ours is an agenda of national interest.
But all is not well. The Porgera Special Mining Lease Area landowners are claiming the state has acted without consultation. Mark Ekepa, a former chairman of the PLOA, saying that despite multiple calls by the landowners for former owners of the SML Barrick to remain, it was a call that fell on deaf ears.
And then I went direct with the developer. Now working a negotiation one time, now I'm giving some blow offers, which is paper me only messed up. Now me give me you long Prime Minister. You ain't giving me long Thursday afternoon, and then Friday afternoon you work him decision long, refuse him extensions.
That frustration shared as a member of the PLOA MOA Renegotiation Committee, Ray Pundi, expressed the further sentiments of the landowners.
By the power of the government, they did all these things by themselves. There's no proper consultations conducted with the landowners.
Despite this, Peter Graham, Kumul Minerals Holdings Limited Managing Director, has backed the Prime Minister's sentiments.
We intend to start in a small way but try and attract third parties to come and work with us to explore and develop the natural resources that Papua New Guinea is blessed with. And getting started with Porgera mine is going to be one very significant step along that way.
What has caused the most consternation between all stakeholders involved is what Ekapa says is the government pushing an agenda separate to what the people want. The Prime Minister saying the due process was followed.
We also prepare for WAFI and other projects going forward. And to our landowners and Enga provincial government, I know you all will be complaining you're not being represented in this occasion. But as soon as the official transfer has taken place, or at least is now in the hands of Kumul Minerals Holding Limited, the S&T and Kumul Mineral will make it their responsibility to talk to our landowners.
Ekepa refuting it outright.
And comes in on as a government, bungi mibla want them. Sit down now how to go about, you may discuss what them are. But government is a politician, one side RM story now.
Under the new SML, Kumul Minerals Holdings Limited is required to apply for all permits needed and also conduct consultation with landowners within 18 months of the SML being granted. And while KMHL still has 18 months to complete all requirements, they may face delays as Barrick has decided to challenge the SML in the Supreme Court. What is understood, however, is that despite the disagreements between the various parties, that the benefits must come back to the people. All sides are quite keen to avoid the turmoil that engulfed the nation in the late 80s that is only just recently beginning to heal. Jeremy Moggy, National TV News.
And now looking at the NAS Fund market report, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.2870 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina is buying $0.2795 US dollars, $0.3747 Australian dollars, $0.2263 euro, and 28.95 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading lower, coffee and cocoa closed lower, copper closed higher, crude oil is trading higher, palm oil closed lower, and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 215.61 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 109.8 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 108.62 points higher. And still ahead on National EMTV News, a new electoral commissioner takes over from Patilius Gamato, and 31 detainees escape from police lockup. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to the news. Electoral Commissioner Patilius Gamato has been replaced with an acting appointment. Gamato was served his replacement notice by the National Executive Council at 3:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Acting Deputy Commissioner Election Administration Simon Sinai has been appointed as the Acting Electoral Commissioner by the Electoral Commission Appointment Committee headed by the Prime Minister James Marape. In a gazettal notice of 27th August, Governor-General Sir Bob Dadai advised of this appointment, which will be for 6 months. The Eastern Highlands Provincial Government is embarking on an exercise to maintain and build new airstrips for rural areas in the province. Governor Peter Numu said this is in line with their plans to make the markets accessible for rural farmers in light of agricultural projects, especially coffee. Like other provinces in the country, the Eastern Highlands also has rural villages that are not easily accessible by roads. These include places like Marawaka, which borders Menyamya in the Morobe province. In light of agricultural projects embarked on by the provincial government, Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu said they're now looking at fixing and building new airstrips in the rural areas.
Eastern Highlands Provincial Government has drawn down around 600,000 kina, which we will use that partnership with the Rural Airstrip Authority, and will maintain and construct new airstrips in the most remote areas.
The Eastern Highlands Provincial Government recently started exporting coffee to South Korea under the Rumbia Coffee Export Company. Much of the green bean coffee bags were sourced from Marawaka, Obura-Wanenara district. Now they will be sourcing coffee from other remote areas as well for export.
With these airports, we will bring more coffee out of the districts as well. And we believe that in doing so, then we will venture into buying coffee around Broca as well.
In a recent visit to villages in rural Okapa and Obura-Wanenara, Governor Numu announced these plans and encouraged locals to grow coffee because of the plans they have to provide services for rural farmers.
Once all recognize more planning can go land nakanosem, provincial government will provide subsidy for subsidizing the air freight, so that balus bakisim coffee blow line carry money go outside buy coffee blow.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News.
In the process,
31 detainees held at the Lae Central Police Station cells escaped from police custody during the early hours this morning. According to the Metropolitan Superintendent Commander Chief Inspector Chris Kunyanban, the suspects made their own way out using the cell key which they took from the cell guard who was intoxicated and asleep. 4 of the suspects were recaptured by Lae CID police around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. today. 27 are still at large. The officer involved was also suspended.
According to Lace Metsub Chief Inspector Chris Kunyanban, the escape this morning was due to the negligence of the police cell guard who fell asleep after drinking alcohol with the juvenile suspects in the cell. The cell key was taken off from him by the suspects who unlocked these cell gates and walked out between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. today. 31 suspects escaped. 4 were recaptured by Lace CID police at around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. today. 27 are still at large.
Out of the 31, we had about 15 being charged under the Criminal Code Act for serious offences. We had 6 for dangerous drug, and we had 10 charged for minor offences or the Summary Offences Act. So altogether, a cumulative total of 31 escaped. Our guys were fortunate to capture 3 at 7th Street. Correction, 4 at 7th Street, 1 for murder, who was charged for murder, and the other 3 for minor offences.
Lace Metsub Chief Inspector Chris Kunyanban said the cell guard has been suspended and investigations are being conducted. He said a full finding of the investigation should be ready by the end of this week, and the cell guard will be reliable for his own action.
The internal investigation will not only look at the criminality or should there be, and we will also look at the process and procedures involved in our security protocol as well, the standard operating procedures as well. Already there are serious breach of our internal protocols, and that will be looked into administratively and also in criminal intent.
Lace Metropolitan Police Station Watch House has the capacity to hold not more than 100 men. Currently, the cell holds almost 140 suspects. The escape of the 31 men from police custody at the Lae Police Station this morning comes 2 weeks after the mass breakout at Lae's Bumo Prison.
I can assure public that we will try our best to make sure that we recapture some of them. We'll be visiting most locations. We know where they are and their immediate relatives. We'll be talking to them to see if we can, some of them can voluntarily surrender, and if they fail to do that, we will try to apprehend them.
Julie Badui, Owa, National MTV News, Lae.
And Trukai Sports is next. Fidelis Sukina is at the sports desk.
Thank you, Helen. We'll have some news from the High Performance Center, and Michael Marum goes rural with Rugby League. Join me in Trukai Sports after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Trukai Sports. After a long wait due to the COVID-19 pandemic, PNG's national athletes will now be visiting the gym again at the High Performance Sport PNG. An announcement by the manager of HP PNG notes the elite athletes will kick off preparations for the Olympics this week, with of course adherence to the COVID-19 measures as set out by the controller through the PNG Sports Foundation.
Since the global pandemic hit, Papua New Guinea's major sporting facilities, especially in the nation's capital, were transformed to cater for COVID-19 purposes. The High Performance PNG, based at the Tauranga Aquatic Centre, were then temporarily relocated to the Sir John Guy Stadium. After meeting clearance requirements, HP PNG is now ready to prepare the national team for Tokyo 2021.
So the preparation of the 2021 Olympics will be underway this week, where we see about 30 to 40 Team PNG athletes will be accessing high performance, going through induction, screening and testing.
With programs rolling out this week, the High Performance is also getting support.
There is support from former athletes like Ryan Pini coming in to assist also. That's good news for us.
While athletes will be happy to return to the gym, protocols and guidelines are mandatory.
We'll be also be taking measures and control on the COVID-19 in place, and working with the controller's office through the PNG Sports Foundation, a pandemic management committee.
The High Performance PNG is the body that supports PNG elite athletes and coaches with access to a range of programs, services and education. Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. PNG LNG Kumuls coach Michael Marum, under his new role as National High Performance Manager of PNG RFL, recently concluded a visit to the Highlands Confederate of the PNG RFL and says it was an opportunity to assess the Digicel Cup franchises in the region and also local leagues to help build capacity in training and coaching. In an effort to have close consultations with franchise teams in the Digicel Cup competition, Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League National High Performance Manager Michael Marum had to travel with an entourage to see firsthand the type of setup the franchise teams had in the Highlands Confederate.
We were targeting Digicel Cup sides. What we intended to do was just visit each team, see how the setup was, how the team live in camp, how they train. So me and my the head trainer Solomon Kuliniasi went around. Started off by visiting teams from the Western Islands, Jivaka. Then we went to Enga, came down to Goroka, then to Ley.
From Michael Marum, who had been tied up mostly with the Hunters in the past and the international duties as the Kumuls coach, says his new role has been an eye-opener.
You know, eye-opener aside the me too, you know, to actually see how some players now playing in the Digicel Cup and also overseas, to see where they started playing, you know, where they started playing their first game.
Marum, as the National High Performance Manager, is tasked to build the capacity in the training programs for local affiliate leagues and also the franchises in the Digicel Cup, which he did by giving out some materials to coaches and trainers. Stanley Hondina says that the PNG NRLC has all the systems in place for game analysis, and Marum was there to just show them to better utilize the existing resources.
Game video analyzers. Easy edit. We've got all video footages put up on the Cloudberry. These things have been there for the last 2 years, but not many coaches have been using it. So one of the reasons why Mike's went out is to show them how to download the video, how to cut the video, how to edit the video. And I think we are satisfied that we've done some bit of work in that. And we are comfortable where it is, but like I said, it's not a setting stone. As in time, when we go through, we will keep on building layers on and get better at it, but we made a start, and the greatest success for us at NRLC is making that start.
Marum also had a chance to pass on some valuable material to local referees to help improve their officiating. The Papua New Guinea National Rugby League competition made the announcement today that the much-anticipated Digicel Cup Round 9 match between the Kimbe Cutters and Bintango Goroka Lahanis has been relocated to Ley due to air travel issues.
Easy edit. We've got all video footage.
Papua New Guinea National Rugby League competition manager Stanley Hondina, in a statement, said due to the rescheduling of flights attributed to the restrictions forced on by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Goroka to Hoskins sector has not been possible, resulting in the relocation of the match scheduled for Kimbe this weekend, now moved to Ley. This is a similar instance to the one that saw the Goroka Lahanis, who couldn't travel to Kokopo to face the Rabaul Gurias.
Due to flight issues. If you can recall, 2 weeks ago we did the same for Kokopo. Lahanis were supposed to go to Kokopo, they didn't go. PNGA used to give those direct flights before, but with the COVID they've rerouted, and that's affecting every one of us. So we are unable to get Lahanis into Kimbe this week, so we moved that game to Ley, and it's going to play it on Saturday at 2 o'clock.
Hondina acknowledged the hard work and support valued sponsors, staff and the volunteers have put into preparing the game at Humphreys Oval in Kimbe. He said with 2 rounds remaining after this weekend, they will ensure a game will be played in Kimbe before the final series.
Commended them for a job well done. They've prepared very well. I did a visit a month ago. I outlined a couple of things that they needed to do, and I think they've really complied very well in doing it. And at NRLC we are proud of the work they do. But it's not a wasted investment. The COVID is here to stay, and we will still play under these protocols come next year onwards. It's good that they started and did something, which other franchises will have to do on their part if they ever wanted to host games come next year and onwards. But yes, in the next 2 games we'll still give them a game or 2.
And that story ends Trukai Sports. Helen will be back with the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, fine but partly cloudy at times in Port Moresby. Mostly fine weather in Daru. Mostly fine, although partly cloudy in Kerema and Popondetta. And fine, although partly cloudy tonight with light morning showers in Alotau. In the Momasa region, occasional rain showers tonight and morning, cloudy morning in Lae. Partly cloudy tonight with chances of early morning thundery showers in Midang, Wewak and Vanimore. In the New Guinea Islands region, occasional thundery rain showers tonight, easing to fine cloudy morning in Lorengau, Kavieng and Kimbe. Cloudy tonight with occasional thundery rain showers in Kokopo and Rabaul, and occasional rain showers tonight and a cloudy morning in Buka. And in the Highlands region, light drizzles, then morning fog right across the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kondiawa, Mendi and Wabeg. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait to Daru, to Kerema, to Yule Island and to Hood Point, and Samari Island, seas of 2.5 to 3.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Samari Island to East Cape, to Cape Vogel through Huangov to Finchhafen, seas of 2 to 3 meters. Waters of Finchhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits to CRC and Long Islands, seas of 2 to 3.5 meters. Waters of Long Island to Karkar Island, to Wewak, to Aitape, and to the northern PNG Indonesian border, seas of 2 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of New Ireland, East New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And waters of West New Britain, seas of 1.5 to 2.5 meters. A look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea. Seas very rough to high seas with southeast winds at 25 to 33 knots, reaching 45 knots. In the Solomon Seas, seas moderate to rough with southeast winds at 20 to 33 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas moderate to patches rough with southeast winds at 20 to 33 knots, reaching gusts of up to 45 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for today, Wednesday, the 2nd of September 2020. From all of us here at EMTV, pleasant viewing. Bye for now.